God of War Ragnarok is probably one of the best games I've ever played and one of the greatest games of all time. It follows up the 2018 God of War reboot with such grace and finesse that this really doesn't even feel like a sequel. The best way I can put it is God of War Ragnarok isn't a sequel to God of War, it is a part 2, which in fairness really feels like the way a lot of PlayStation's first party offerings have felt. Like, a lot of the games that have come out lately, for example, look at The Last of Us. The Last of Us Part 2. They even put part in the name. It doesn't necessarily evolve massively on the first game, but continues the amazing story, and probably the reason that we tuned in to begin with is that story. And I know that's exactly why I wanted to pick up God of War Ragnarok as soon as it dropped, because God of War 2018 hit me in a way that not many other games can. And I wondered how much harder it would hit me this time, considering when I played God of War 2018, I went into it thinking, awesome, a follow-up to one of the greatest PlayStation exclusive trilogies of all time. I love the original 3 God of War games, and I even enjoyed Ascension, the PSP games, Ghost of Sparta, Chains of Olympus. To me, they're some of the greatest games that have ever been made. God of War is that pinnacle, is that game that you can go to people and say, when I think PlayStation, I think God of War. So going into 2018 and experiencing that story and realizing that it was not what I was expecting it to be. It wasn't the angry, crazy Kratos that was going around getting revenge. It was a father, someone who had learnt from his past, someone who was trying to atone for his sins. It just hit very, very different. And going into Ragnarok, I assumed it was going to hit maybe even harder or just as hard, because since the 2018 God of War release, I myself have become a father, and there are moments in Ragnarok that just hit so much harder, I think, because I do have that parental feel now, if that makes sense. I've had a child, I've had that switch go off in my body, changing my perspective of the world, and when it comes to Kratos, I now see and understand him in a completely different light, in a completely different way. And I actually look forward to going back and playing the original God of War, the 2018 God of War, to see if my perspective has changed playing that game. I can't really talk about much more as to why I believe God of War Ragnarok is the greatest game of all time. The story in this game is so heavily littered with spoilers that it would be rude of me to go through this game's story and just spoil it for all of you. I can't even talk about why I think God of War is the greatest game of all time because of how littered this story is with spoilers. It is an experience that I think everyone should enjoy for themselves, for the first time, not have it spoiled by anything or anyone. I think the most optimal way to play this game is to play through 2018's God of War, take a day, sit down, and then play through God of War Ragnarok. The things I can talk about, though, are combat, music, characters. The combat in the game is very, very similar to 2018's God of War. Like I said, God of War Ragnarok feels less like a sequel and more like a part 2, a follow-up. So you have access straight away to the Leviathan Thax, which is what we had access to straight away in the first game, but you also have access to the Blades of Chaos and more in your arsenal later down the line. Like I said, spoilers, I'm not getting into it, but know that you do have more down the line to look forward to. But the Leviathan Thax and Blades of Chaos are nothing to sneeze at. A lot of the combos that you would have had access to at the end of the game are still available to you at the start of the game, but the weapons are brought back down to 0 and you will need to level them up over the course of the game. But the combat feels good. It feels very fast, very fluid, feels very tight, probably a little bit tighter than the first game. Like I said, this axe is amazing. It still feels so good to wield. The blades, how are they not? Just they're one of the greatest weapons in a video game of all time. They feel amazing, and I can't fault them. They're so good. Plus, at the start of this game, there is a massive, awesome boss fight, very much in lieu with the boulder fight from the first game. We all know it's Thor. It's the Thor fight at the start of the game. It's amazing. You've seen it everywhere. Using the Leviathan Thax in this fight, it just feels like the ultimate weapon. It feels so good to use, and if you are going into this game thinking it's going to be slow and sluggish, it's not. It's beautiful, it's fluid, it's fun, it's fast, it's good. I enjoy the combat. I think it's really good. The weapons are really good in puzzles as well. They all work very fluidly together, and yeah, it's definitely a 10 out of 10 in the combat for me. The music. I cannot tell you how amazing this music is. This music is it's exceptional. Honestly, it's exceptional. If you've watched any interview with the composer for this game, you know that he absolutely loves what he is doing and puts 100% of himself into the music. The music is just exceptional. There's nothing else I can say. The use of classic Norse instruments to reach those highest of highs that get you hyped up for the fight at hand, or the slow backing track as you're getting into an emotional scene or moment. The music just exceeds expectations, and honestly is probably one of the best gaming soundtracks of all time. The characters. Now, the characters have evolved. It's not often you see characters evolve in video games all that often, but Kratos and Atreus have become closer since the previous game, and so they should. Like, we went on an amazing adventure with them in the first game, bringing them closer as father and son. They have become closer. We opened the game with them very much working together. Like, they've got a flow. They're old buddies now, you know? They work together very well, but you can still feel a sort of distance between the two. One very much wants to keep the other safe and out of harm's way. One wants to try and fulfill their destiny. Atreus wants to go out. Atreus wants to learn more about who he is, more about Loki. He wants to push in the direction of Ragnarök, whereas Kratos really just wants to keep his son alive, safe. He's seen what happens when you go chasing destiny, and he always uses the same line: we need to be better. And honestly, this game follows that exact same motto. This game, from the get-go, does what many games try to do and fail to do: follow up a masterpiece and be better. And in my opinion, God of War Ragnarok is better than God of War 2018. God of War Ragnarok is a follow-up to a masterpiece, and somehow became a masterpiece in its own right. I wish I could tell you more about this game. I wish this review was a little bit more traditional, going through everything, but it's incredibly difficult. So I thought for this, I would sit down and just tell you my immediate feelings, exactly what I'm feeling after finishing the game. After platinuming the game, you have to platinum the game. Platinuming the game adds so much to it. Yeah, this is less of a review really, and more of a jumble of words that I've put together. These are my feelings right after finishing the game, and honestly, I do not think there will be another game this year that will hit me as hard as God of War Ragnarok. I don't know if there will be another game this generation that will hit me as hard as Ragnarok. I am not a big scorer guy. Like, I hate giving scores, but if I had to give it something, it's a 10 out of 10. It's a masterpiece and a must play. Please do not sleep on God of War. I know a lot of people aren't, but if you have been on the fence, don't be. God of War Ragnarok is probably one of, if not the greatest game of all time. So please go and check it out. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it.